everyone, my name is Lee, and this is my Kickstarter video. I'm sure most of you have heard of natural gas fracking. It involves drilling down into the earth 8,000 feet through our water tables and then hydraulically pressurizing that bore to get gas. And that's called progress. That's what the government would like you to believe. And there's been a lot of controversy about fracking causing water contamination. But I'd like to talk to you about something even worse than that. Something so bad that it's only seen in the Bible. First, let me show you. You know, this is my little spot on the planet Earth. It's a little 20-acre reserve, and I bought it because I love the outdoors. But wait a second, what's that hum? What's that noise? Oh, look over there. It's progress. It's big oil getting gas out of the ground. And it never stops, and it never will stop. It's happening on a global scale, and I'm standing kind of in the epicenter of it, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, where just a few years ago you'd see there'd be a rig there, and that rig would leave after a couple weeks, and then that rig would return a month later and drill another hole, and they would repeat the process. And in another few years, when that well starts dropping off, they'll come back and they'll put the rig up and start drilling all over again in different directions until they feel they've exhausted their resource right here on this property. Now, if I'm going to turn around here, if I were to walk directly 200 meters straight ahead, there's another one of these wells, and you know, that's okay. I bought the property knowing that there was drilling activity. But let me get back to the story. Once again, we all know that there's, you know, evidence of water contamination. Caused by earthquakes, seismic activity. Seismic activity is a byproduct of the hydraulic fracturing technique that they use, and it's been known about since 1962, 63, 64, when they were the government allowed deep well injection to occur at the Rocky Mountain Arsenal, and scientists then learned that the rate of seismic activity went up dramatically with hydraulic fracturing. What they didn't really think about back then, and of course I can understand the need for energy overshadowing your need for a clean environment. In you know, in some ways I can relate to it, even though I'm an environmental enthusiast. As you can tell, I wouldn't have bought this property if I didn't love nature. But what they didn't think about, they didn't plan out, was the fact that when they drilled down 8,000 feet to hydraulically fracture for the gas, that they drilled through our water. And, well, that's understandable. The water isn't 8,000 feet down until now. What do I mean? Well, if you think of the well casing being very similar to a straw, first of all, we drill a hole in the ground 8 or 10,000 feet below, and let's say it rains. Of course, if we don't do anything to that hole, the water wants to go down and fill that cavity up. Now let's imagine we stick a straw in that hole, and we'll call that straw the well casing. Now, the big oil, they would have you believe that the straw that they stick in, with the glue that they hold it in place with, is really secure. It's protecting your water table against any contamination. But I started thinking, what if they're wrong? And surely there are engineers that have thought about this problem. I'm an engineering technician. Granted, I'm not a scientist with a master's or a PhD. I'm not a bachelor degree engineer, but I've taken my fair share of high-level physics and calculus and differential equations, so I'm well aware of the mechanics involved. So let's imagine this, that we've got a glue holding our straw into the ground, holding this well casing into the ground. That glue happens to be concrete, and at a certain layer, you're going to meet bedrock, and that bedrock concrete interface should be reasonably secure. But what if you have seismic activity, which is exactly what's been occurring underneath my feet, all around us? In fact, last year, for several months in a row, there were sizable events that would lift you straight off the ground 6 inches and drop you back down in a millisecond. And of course, me being the investigative type I am, I looked at the charts I got online. Sure enough, the epicenter was right under my feet, and that got me thinking, how does that impact the well casing bedrock interface? Surely it's got to disrupt it. And in further researching and brainstorming about how these wells are drilled and how the well casing is designed, I started thinking, what if the water, after a damaged well casing, what if the water goes down the outside of the well casing? At a certain point, there is no more well casing, it's just bore. And I believe that we've got a serious problem. The water has to seek the lowest point. When there are seismic events of the magnitude that I felt, the well casing has to get damaged. There's no doubt in my mind. It's a vertical uplift, 6 or 8 inches. And that kind of magnitude, it doesn't matter what kind of structure you're using, it's going to be damaged when subjected to the forces that Mother Earth imposes on it. So at that particular location, any water, whether it's in an aquifer or it's groundwater, is going to go down. It's going to seek the lowest level and try to fill up that cavity that was created with the boring where they're extracting their gas. And then it's going to reach the fracture point, where they fracked it and spidered it out to extract more gas. And it's going to keep seeping, and it's going to go as low as it can possibly go. Unfortunately, this water, by the time it reaches, that level, it's contaminated, and it's so far down that it's unrealistic to even recover it for drinking water. So the real fact of the matter is, if we do indeed have loss, like I suggest, shouldn't we do something about it now? Shouldn't we be investing in desalination plants along our coastline? I think this is really important if we want our children to have water in 20 years' time. And I'm not saying it's going to happen in 20 years, but if you think about the sheer number of these wells that have been drilled and that are being drilled worldwide, it's a scary reality, and I think it's worth investigating. My name's Lee, and this is my Kickstarter video. I'm sure most of you have heard of natural gas fracking. It involves drilling down into the earth 8,000 feet through our water tables, and then hydraulically pressurizing that bore to get gas. And that's called progress. That's what the government would like you to believe. And there's been a lot of controversy about fracking causing water contamination. But I'd like to talk to you about something even worse than that. Something so bad that it's only seen in the Bible. First, let me show you. You know, this is my little spot on the planet Earth.